YouTube fam, Mose fam, welcome back into the channel, man. Listen, we got another first round mock draft for you. Now, this one is coming quick. We're going to call this one 2023 NFL Mock Draft 2.1 because we had some major developments happening in the 2023 NFL Draft already. The Chicago Bears have traded out of the #1 overall selection. They made a trade with the Carolina Panthers. So they swapped first round picks. So the Bears drop back to 9. Panthers jump up to 1. Panthers also send pick 61, a first rounder next year, a second rounder in 2025, and wide receiver DJ Moore. We'll discuss the implications of that trade and winners and losers, maybe on another episode, maybe on our TikTok channel. If you're not following on TikTok, head over to TikTok, follow Mose Knows. We'll discuss all that over there. But now we need to bring another mock draft. That changes things. That one trade kind of shifts what's happening in this first round. So let's dive right in and see what we got going on. So we want all teams. We just want the first round. Doesn't matter the speed because we're controlling everything. And let's enter the draft. So the Carolina Panthers are on the clock. I think they did this for a reason. I think they have a quarterback in mind. Here's my thought process on it. Frank Reich, Carolina Brass, they were at the scouting combine. They got to meet with all the quarterbacks. They got to see a few of them throw. We all know Anthony Richardson had a really, really big day. Will Levis showed some good things. But CJ Stroud was absolutely on the money in those passing drills. He showed a certain level of accuracy, timing, touch, anticipation. So you see that on the field. You meet with the kid. You get a feel for who he is as a person, right? And I think all of their questions were answered. They met the kid. They loved the kid. They saw what he did on the field, and they feel like they have the culture in place with Frank Reich, Josh McCown, Caldwell. I forget his first name. Is it Jim Caldwell? They have everybody who they need on staff to draft a young quarterback #1 overall and develop him for long-term success in the future. For me, this is a no-brainer. We're going to start the draft. #1 overall, I think the Carolina Panthers select quarterback CJ Stroud out of Ohio State. Now, again, this changes things. For the longest, I had CJ going #2 to the Houston Texans. But I think Carolina sees what they like. They know what they have. They're solid with making this pick. So, Houston Texans fans, at least some of them, get what they want. They finally get what they want from a Mose Knows draft. Bryce Young off the board, #2 to the Houston Texans. Now, #3 is where it's going to get interesting because we know the Colts are on the clock at #4, right? So could the Colts just say, listen, to secure what we want, do we move up one spot just to make sure that nobody else can leapfrog us? The Raiders on the clock will be on the clock at 7. Do they decide to leapfrog the Colts just to make sure there's only 2 quarterbacks left? If their guy is one of the 2, do they make that jump? And I think it'll be telling, right? After the Panthers make their pick, after the Texans make their pick, if there's movement, if we see that countdown clock drag on a little bit, somebody's calling Arizona to try to leapfrog Indianapolis. More than likely, that's going to be either the Raiders or the Falcons. But I think it's going to be the Raiders because if their guy is on the board, that's telling. If their guy is gone, say if they're high on Stroud and Young and they're not high on Richardson and Levis, they won't make that move, right? For the sake of this draft, they're not going to make that move. And Arizona may entertain some phone calls, but ultimately they want to stay put because with 2 quarterbacks off the board, they get their pick of the defensive player that they want. And I think that's going to be Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama at 3. This pick stays the same for me with Indianapolis Colts. I think that before they jump up to 1 to make sure they go get him, with the Panthers going up to 1. Now that kind of leaves them at a crossroads to see where the Panthers go. If the Panthers go the way that I think they're going to go, this still leaves their guy on the board. So I think they go Anthony Richardson at 4. And that's a great pick. They didn't have to move up to get him. They didn't have to trade any assets. They can continue to rebuild that team and retool around him. Now, Seahawks on the clock. They could also move. Maybe the Raiders don't want to trade up to 3. Maybe they want to see what the Colts do at 4, and then they decide, okay, let's see if we can jump up with the Seahawks just to make sure that the Falcons don't try to leapfrog us and either call the Seahawks or call the Lions. Again, I don't think that happens here. I think the Seahawks, they stand pat and they get their pick of the defensive player that they want, and they go Tyree Wilson. At 5, Lions on the clock. This pick also stays the same for me. We're going to go Christian Gonzalez, corner out of Oregon at 6. Now we have the Raiders on the clock. So they gambled a little bit, but they ultimately got to stay put. Didn't need to use any assets to move up and still get the guy that they want for the future. Whether they bring in a veteran like, Andy Dalton or a Jimmy Garoppolo, there's, conversation out there that they're leaning more towards Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, sure. You bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, you have him there for a year or 2 while you're in the background developing Will Levis. Raiders go Will Levis at 7. The Atlanta Falcons, they stay put and they go Nolan Smith, edge rusher out of Georgia at 8. Now, in my mock draft 2.0, I had the Bears making a selection at 9. I had them trading back with the Colts at 4, and then trading back again with the Panthers. Panthers moving up to get their quarterback, and them staying at 9 and making the pick. So it kind of makes your boy feel good that I'm kind of on the money a little bit. Now, it only took one trade, and it took the Panthers going from 9 to 1. But the Bears are settled in at number 9. Now, they also could move still. They could get more assets, and they could move back a couple of more spots if they decided to. But I think they stay put here, and I think they go on the board, and they get an offensive lineman. You got your quarterback. At least with this trade, moving out of that first pick, moving out of that top 5, you're saying, we, at least for right now, we believe in Justin Fields. We went out and got him a receiver. We feel like we have running backs in the fold. Khalil Herbert is probably going to have a big year. You got your tight end in Cole Kmet. So we got our quarterback. We've got our skill position pieces. Let's fortify that offensive line. And I think you can do that. And I think they go tackle Broderick Jones out of Georgia. I love Peter Skoronski. I love Paris Johnson. But I just have a feeling that the Bears go Broderick Jones, tackle out of Georgia. So a lot of these picks are going to remain the same here. So we're going to fly through. And if you haven't seen Mock Draft 2.1, we'll kind of give you just a brief overview. Philadelphia here says wide receiver is a need. I mean, you got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. I don't think wide receiver is the number 1 need here. Offensive line, possibly. Maybe they go a Peter Skoronski here, who is slated to move inside to guard as well. He has that guard tackle flexibility. But I think with having 2 picks in the first round, this 10th pick is a luxury. The Eagles could move out of this slot. Could very well move out of this slot. But I think with the recent news surrounding Jalen Carter, forcing him to slide down the board a little bit, I think this is a perfect spot for the Eagles to add another dominant defensive lineman to their core. And it's a great spot for him to go. They may be losing Javon Hargrave. They may be losing Fletcher Cox, whether that is to free agency or retirement. Brandon Graham did say he was going to be back, but you're losing 2 solid pieces on that interior of the defensive line. So if you do have questions about Jalen Carter's off-field character, what better position to bring him in with his former teammates? You got Jordan Davis and you got Nakobe Dean, defensive tackle and linebacker that the Eagles drafted last year. So you bring him into an environment that already has an established culture. You put him with former teammates who can help keep him accountable. And now you replenish a defensive line that set an NFL record for single season sacks by a defense. I think this is a no-brainer pick if he slides. Philly will continue to have a top defensive line in the NFL. Moving on to pick number 11, we have the Tennessee Titans on the clock. Now, there are rumblings that Derrick Henry may be on the trading block. Now, they aren't actively shopping him. They said, but they're not actively shopping. They're just actively listening. And that's fine. That's fine. You always need to look to make your team better. You know, Derrick Henry is 29 years old. He has a lot of tread on the tires. You know, maybe you look to get the most that you can for him now before you start to see the decline. So it is very well possible. So a name floated around at 11 could be Bijan Robinson if they make a trade happen. But I feel like, you know, moving on from Taylor Lewan and also moving on from center Ben Jones, I think the Tennessee Titans have to focus on the offensive line. And I think they do that with tackle Paris Johnson Jr. From Ohio State. That leaves the Houston Texans on the clock again. We've already drafted the QB, and I think some Texans fans will be happy now that that is Bryce Young in this mock draft. Other needs are center, defensive line. I do think they go defensive line here. I'm going to give them Miles Murphy, edge rusher out of Clemson, here at 12. Jets are on the clock. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be. Apparently, there is a deal, an agreed upon deal as far as assets. What are we giving? What are we getting? There is an agreed upon structured deal between the Jets and the Packers. The final piece is, what is Aaron Rodgers going to do? Is he going to play football or is he going to retire? Either way, whether you bring in Aaron Rodgers or whether you continue to move forward and try to develop Zach Wilson, you need to be able to protect them. This Jets offensive line has had some really, really good offensive line selections in the draft the past couple of years. Can't keep the guys on the field and keep them healthy. So I think they go to that well one more time, and they get a versatile player in Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. Patriots on the clock. Edge is a need here. There's a solid edge on the board that they can go get. And I think the Patriots attack that position with Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. Packers on the clock. They're going to move forward with Jordan Love. You're going to move forward with Jordan Love. You better have options that he can have at his disposal to get the ball to. Allen Lazard looks like he's hitting free agency. That leaves Christian Watson. Yes, you have Romeo Doubs, but they're going into their sophomore seasons. A tight end could be an option here as well. But I think with the wide receivers who are here, Jackson Smith and Jigba just makes the most sense. Getting a solid wide receiver who can run routes and get open and create space. So I'm going Jackson Smith and Jigba at 15 to the Packers. At 16, we have the Commanders on the board. Again, both of their tackles listed on the depth chart are 32 years old. They have some holes on that offensive line. I think that is an area that they need to improve, especially if they're moving forward with Sam Howell as the quarterback. They already have the weapons on the outside. So we need to be able to protect our quarterback so that he can get the ball to those weapons. Cornerback is a need. Linebacker is a need. But I think you can attack in a deep defensive class. I think all the positions, edge rusher, linebacker, corner, safety. This is a deep class for defensive talent. So I think you get the offensive guys early and then supplement those other positions in later rounds. I'm going Anton Harrison at 16 for the Commanders. Again, I think this is bound to happen. I think this would be an amazing story. It's not much to be said. Longtime Steeler great Joey Porter. Here's his son name drafted in the first round to the Pittsburgh Steelers, Joey Porter Jr. at 17. Man, what a feel-good story that would be. Now, in my mock draft 2.0, the Giants traded up from 25 to 18 with the Lions to leapfrog the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to select running back Bijan Robinson. With the signing of Daniel Jones and the franchise tagging of Saquon Barkley, that's probably a little less likely now. Saquon may come back on the franchise tag. He may try to hold out for more money. I don't think there's going to be a team that's going to trade for Saquon and risk giving up assets with him being on the franchise tag. So I don't think they make this move now. It could be possible, but why would you have Bijan and Saquon in the same running back room? So I think the Lions stay put. Maybe there are other teams that will try to get into this 18th spot. I don't really see any other teams that may need a running back. Vikings got some issues going on with Dalvin Cook, we're hearing. Dallas is going with Tony Pollard. Maybe a Buffalo team wants to move up and get a dynamic, true number one running back. But I think the Lions stay put here. And I think they continue to add to the defense. You see their top three needs are defensive line, or DI, defensive interior, linebacker, and corner. We've already got the corner. And I'm going to add a new name to this list. I think, they get a guy who's been rising up draft boards, his athleticism, what he's been able to show at the combine and pro days and things of that nature. So I think the Lions stay put. They make sure they can beef that defense up, and they go Kalijah Kancey, defensive tackle out of Pittsburgh at 18. I think that's a solid draft for them. If they walk out of that first round with Christian Gonzalez and Kalijah Kancey, now we cooking with grease. So then we have the Buccaneers on the clock at 19. And I think this is where we could see Bijan Robinson go. They moved on from Leonard Fournette. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Kyle Trask? Is it going to be another veteran that they may sign during free agency? They're kind of keeping that under wraps, keeping it quiet on what they want to do. But all I know is if you're going to roll with a young quarterback, you got to give him weapons. So he has the weapons on the outside. He's got the Chris Godwins. He's got the Mike Evans. He's got the tight ends. But now we also need to make sure he has a solid running game. So I think you can see Bijan Robinson getting drafted at 19 by the Buccaneers here. Seattle Seahawks are on the clock. Guard center is a major need for them on that offensive line. So they already attacked the... Let's go interior O-line. They already attacked the defensive side of the ball. I think they stand pat at 20 and attack the offensive side of the ball, and they go guard Osiris Torrance out of Florida. Dolphins pick is forfeited, so now we're at 21 with the Chargers, who are on the clock now. In previous drafts, I had them going offensive line. Wide receiver is a need here. So maybe they go wide receiver to give Justin Herbert another target. But I can also see them going defense here. I can also see them, trying to beef up that interior of that defense, particularly on the line, to help those edge rushers get home a little bit more cleanly. Brian Breezy had a down year due to some injuries and some personal issues, but we know the talent is there. We know the football IQ, the athleticism is there. So I think they add this young man into their defensive front. That allows the pass rushers to get home. We got, corners and safeties coming back off of injuries, getting healthy. So if everybody can stay healthy, I think this Chargers defense can do some really, really good things. I'm going Brian Breezy, defensive tackle out of Clemson, to the Chargers at 21. Ravens on the clock. I think this is a no-brainer. They're going wide receiver, and I think they're going to go Jordan Addison, wide receiver out of USC. Vikings on the clock. This pick stays the same from 2.0. I think they go corner, beef up that defense. And they go Deonte Banks out of Maryland at 23. For the longest time, Jags have had guard Osiris Torrance, at least in my drafts. Osiris Torrance is off the board, going to the Seahawks at number 20. But I still think they attack that offensive line. It's been thrown around that they may tag. I was just talking about him the other day. So many names when I start talking about people. Jawan. That's his first name. Is it? What's his name? It's not Taylor, is it? I am blanking. I know his first name is Jawan. Is it Taylor? It is Taylor. I had it right. I was making sure. They may tag Jawan Taylor. But if they don't tag Jawan Taylor, then I think they can very well find his replacement in this draft. And I'm going Darnell Wright, tackle out of Tennessee, if they don't bring back Jawan Taylor. That leaves the Giants on the clock at 25. Again, no trade up to get Bijan Robinson. If Saquon Barkley is going to stay on the team under the franchise tag. Now, where do we go? I think this one is wide receiver. You still need to give Daniel Jones weapons. You move on from Kenny Golladay, who gave you absolutely nothing with his tenure in New York. And you replace a big body receiver with another big body receiver. Quentin Johnson at 25 to the Giants makes a lot of sense. And I think he adds to what they do offensively. Cowboys on the clock at 26. This stays the same for me. I think they go Darnell Washington. Dallas wants to run the football. If they can run the football effectively and use play action, I think that's what they want to do. If you look at Darnell Washington, I looked up his Instagram, and a part of his handle, he calls himself the 6th offensive lineman. So as a tight end, he has great athleticism. He can get down the field. We saw at the combine the spinning one-handed grab. He can catch the football, but his mindset first is being that 6th offensive lineman and blocking. We saw in the field drills how he so easily moved that sled. All the other tight ends struggled, and he moved that sled with ease. They want to run the football. They want to use him in short yardage in the red zone. I think Darnell Washington is the perfect selection for the Cowboys at 26. Bills on the clock at 27. Bills on the clock at 27. This stays the same from 2.0. And we're going linebacker Trenton Simpson. Now, I had a thought because he was still on the board. I had a thought of going Brian Branch here because I believe they are losing Jordan Poyer to free agency. But they have a bunch of guys in the secondary that they can utilize. So I feel like linebacker is a little bit more important need because they don't have as much depth in that position group. Now Brian Branch comes off the clock. I believe Jesse Bates will be leaving the Bengals in free agency. I believe Von Bell may also be a free agent. So they have a possibility of losing 2 safeties on the back end. I would love for them to go corner here because at some point they have to move on from Eli Apple. But Brian Branch is the best safety in this class. And if you're going to lose a guy like Jesse Bates, you replace him with a guy like Brian Branch. Bengals go Branch at 28. This pick stays the same. Don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. But you don't miss a beat replacing him with a player like Jahmyr Gibbs. Eagles on the clock, again at pick 30. So we got our defensive tackle earlier. Here, I think we go corner. You're losing Bradbury to free agency. And you've granted Darius Slay and his agent permission to seek a trade because he doesn't have any more guaranteed money in his contract. So if he can find a team that'll restructure his contract and give him some guaranteed money, I feel like that's where he's going to go. So if you have two of your booking corners leaving in free agency or via trade, then you have to replenish that position. In 2.0, I went Keely Ringo, just pairing Georgia teammate with Georgia teammate. But this time I'm going to go with who some people believe is the best corner in the draft. And I feel like Philly would be a good place for him to land with the defense that's surrounding him, with the way they're able to get to the passer. So I'm going to go Devin Witherspoon at 30, change that up from 2.0. And then on the clock, 31, last pick in the first round, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. Same pick as 2.0. I'm going Zay Flowers, wide receiver here. Again, retool that offense and give Patrick Mahomes every opportunity to continue to be special. Okay, this finally worked this time, so we can kind of go through it on screen. So, pick number 1, Panthers trade up to number 9 to select C.J. Stroud, quarterback out of Ohio State. Some Texans fans get their wish. They get Bryce Young, quarterback out of Alabama at 2. Cardinals stay put and take Will Anderson Jr. from Alabama, edge rusher. Colts stay put and they get Anthony Richardson, quarterback out of Florida. Seahawks take Tyree Wilson, edge rusher from Texas Tech. The Lions get Christian Gonzalez, corner out of Oregon. Raiders take Will Levis, QB out of Kentucky. The Falcons get Nolan Smith from Georgia. And then we have back-to-back Georgia picks where the Bears take Broderick Jones from Georgia. And then we have back-to-back Georgia picks where the Philadelphia Eagles take Jalen Carter at 10. I think that is a steal for them. At 11, the Titans take Paris Johnson Jr., retool that offensive line. The Texans get much-needed replenishment on the defensive side of the ball and edge rusher Miles Murphy from Clemson. Jets replenish O-line with Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. The Patriots take a Patriot player, Lucas Van Ness from Iowa. Packers finally get a wide receiver, even though Aaron Rodgers isn't coming back. Jackson Smith and Chigba out of Ohio State. The Commanders take tackle Anton Harrison from Oklahoma. Joey Porter Jr. gets to live out his dream with the team that he rooted for as a child because of where his dad played, and is selected 17th by the Pittsburgh Steelers. Kalijah Kancey makes his first round debut in the Mose mock draft series with being selected 18th overall by the Lions. Bijan Robinson goes 19 to the Buccaneers. The Seahawks take Osiris Torrance out of Florida, guard at 20. Chargers at 21 take defensive tackle Brian Brzee. The Ravens get much needed receiver help with Jordan Addison from USC. Vikings replenish cornerback with Deontay Banks from Maryland. Jags replenish tackle with Darnell Wright from Tennessee. The Giants get a much needed receiver help in Quentin Johnson from TCU. Dallas adds the 6th offensive lineman in tight end Darnell Washington from Georgia. Buffalo Bills take linebacker Trenton Simpson from Clemson. Bengals replace Jesse Bates with Brian Branch, safety from Alabama. Saints get Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. Eagles take cornerback Devin Witherspoon from Illinois. And the Kansas City Chiefs take wide receiver Zay Flowers from Boston College. That is going to do it for Mock Draft 2.1. So we're going to continue. If there are other trades that are made that's going to force us to come back and see where the draft order sits and who wants to be movers and who wants to be shakers, we will do absolutely that. As players continue to go through their pro days, Devin Witherspoon still hasn't had his pro day yet. So when Illinois has its pro day, and he's able to perform and compete, he may shoot up the first round mock draft. He may, be taken over a Christian Gonzalez or over a Joey Porter Jr. with what he's able to put on tape. And he's just one example of many other players who may not have performed at the combine, who are waiting for their pro days to put all of that out there for scouts and teams. So again, as we continue to go through this offseason up until the draft, we will continue to do these first round mock drafts to kind of give you an idea of where these teams are thinking, what players they're leaning towards, and what options are available, either staying put at their position, trading up, or trading down. So if this is something that you like, first of all, give a thumbs up on this video. Shoot me some comments below. Let me know how you like this draft. Let me know if you like this selection for your team. Let me know what you might have done differently. I love interacting with all of you guys in the comment section. You guys keep it respectful. You guys provide insight and information into your teams, and I love that collaboration that we have. Also, become a part of the Mose Knows fam. Become a know-it-all. Once your family, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Hit that subscription button and hit that bell icon so that you get notified every time new content drops right here at Mose Knows. All of my social medias will be linked down below. Love and appreciate all of you guys, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.